Okay, guys, welcome to the Pescatarian Lifestyle channel. And today is the first in our series of our feature titled Click2Chat. The first series, we are joined by Yanique Rodgers, and she is a research scientist. And our topic for today is how to maintain a healthy diet during this crisis. Why this channel? Definitely, I wanted to document my journey as a pescatarian because, you know, every persons are always asking me, what is that? What is pescatarian? Who is a pescatarian? And so forth. So I decided to document the journey. I have been on the journey for almost 10 years now. And of course, it's one that I really, really do not regret. And so just to inspire others who also want to come on this journey, this channel will help them, you know, in terms of developing food, different meals, should say, and also in terms of my journey, my traveling and all of that, developing the person. And at this time, I'm going to ask Yanique to take over. She is a well-experienced food scientist, so if you have any questions, you can always type in the chat and I'll ask them for you, or you can perhaps use the raise hand feature and I'll allow you to ask your questions. And you know, feel free to have dialogue with us, because this is really a chat, you know, series. So I don't want just myself to be talking or Yanique to be talking if others would like to join. And so Yanique, take it away. And of course, Yanique, you and I are under lockdown, right? So this is a good way to pass time.
Yes, indeed, we are under lockdown.
Yeah.
All right, so good afternoon, Tamika. Thanks for having me. And I'm glad that we're able to have this dialogue via this particular session. So Tamika asked me to speak about diet and nutrition specifically as it relates to a crisis period. Now, generally, whenever we experience a crisis, some things happen. Depending on whatever the situation, there are some things that are common. Challenges that we might experience is lack of food security. And really what that means is that we are not sure of our food supply at a particular time. And also on the individual level, it might mean that you're not sure of your food supply. And even if it is that you're going to get food that you particularly eat or that you like, so it might be a situation where seafood is not available. So of course, that is going to be a challenge to the pescatarian, as is the case now where we find that some of the fish markets are closed. And so that can be a challenge to the pescatarian in that way. So that's a general look of what is happening in terms of having a crisis. One of the things though is that we need to keep ourselves in good health, especially during a crisis. So the good thing is we would need to be keeping ourselves healthy.
Just to stick up in
Yes,
there.
yes, Tamika.
Could you please start by telling the audience who is a pescatarian, or what is the pescatarian diet all about, really? From those persons
Okay.
who know.
Okay. All right. So a pescatarian is somebody who really adopts a pescatarian diet. And what that really is that you're a vegetarian. So that means you're not a lover of meat, chicken or fish. You generally don't eat those. However, a pescatarian is a vegetarian who eats fish and other seafoods. So a pescatarian won't eat meat, they won't eat chicken, but they will eat fish. So that's who a pescatarian is, right? So let me continue, right? So I was saying that in a crisis, especially like this now, where some of the fish and seafood markets are closed, then a pescatarian might experience some challenges there with food security, since it is that fish is one of their main sources of protein in the diet. So of course you can get proteins from other sources, other non-meat sources, but for a pescatarian it might be challenging because there is no fish. So, right, so I was saying that the crisis can lead to changes in your diet because food is not available as it usually is available. And we need to take good care of ourselves in a crisis because a crisis can have a lot more stress on our bodies and our mental and physical well-being, especially as with the case with some of the frontline workers, the healthcare workers, they might be experiencing a lot of stress at this time. So they have to ensure that they keep their bodies well nourished and just to ensure that they maintain good health. So some of the main ways in which we maintain good health, we have to ensure that we get enough rest, enough sleep. We have to ensure that we get enough exercise. We also have to ensure that we nourish our bodies properly. So the nourishment now, the food part of it, that is where my expertise lies. So that is what I'm really going to be talking about today. So some of the things that we need to look at now in terms of maintaining a good diet, a healthy diet, we need to look at foods that contain a lot of what you call anti-inflammatory properties. So inflammation is one of those things that causes a lot of challenges in the body. I won't get into too much detail in that. So when you hear about anti-inflammatory foods, these are foods that will stop inflammation or reduce inflammation in the body. So some good anti-inflammatory foods like vitamin C is one of those immune system boosters because inflammation is a threat to the immune system, so to speak. So vitamin C is one of those immune system boosters. So too, you have things like garlic. People talk about echinacea as well, although echinacea is not something that is widely available in Jamaica. But turmeric is also something that you can get widely in Jamaica. So, and in general, your fruits and vegetables, because those tend to be very high in vitamin C, they also tend to be high in zinc, which is another nutrient that comes in well in terms of the immune system. So we need to ensure that we are nourishing ourselves properly. Now, I should have said this from the beginning of the program, but persons might not have been tuning in from the beginning, but you still need to hear this. So what we're discussing today is very general. So persons might have specific challenges or specific conditions. And of course, I will not know all the details surrounding those specific conditions. So persons, please ensure that you discuss whatever situation you might be having with your doctor, with your personal physician, because not everything that is said here will necessarily apply to everybody depending on their specific situation, because what is being discussed today is general guidelines for general good health, right? So I just want to make that very clear. Okay, all right, so let me continue now. So we're talking about foods like garlic, we're looking at our fruits and vegetables, we're looking at things that are high in zinc, again, the fruits and vegetables, your grains, so like your rice, your flour, particularly flour that is not polished or refined. So we're looking at the whole grain flour, the whole grain oats as well. So all of these foods are going to be high in zinc. And also fish and seafood is high in zinc. So the pescatarians will be happy to hear that. So when you're looking at things like garlic now, so some of us tend to cook with a lot of garlic because garlic is very flavorful, it's very aromatic, so it brings a lot of good flavor to our foods. So some of us might cook with a lot of garlic, and some of us might not do so because we're concerned about the smell of the garlic. And garlic is one of those foods, again, garlic and onions, but especially garlic, if you consume a lot of it, it will come out in your pores, it will come out in your sweat, and it will come out in your breath as well. It has very volatile compounds, so it evaporates easily and you will smell like garlic essentially. So if you want to get around that, one of the things you can look at doing is consuming odorless garlic capsules. So that's something that you can do. Now, let me point out that garlic is one of those foods that it actually helps to what you call thin your blood. So if it is that anybody isn't on any blood thinners, or if you have any relatives on blood thinners, they need to discuss the whole matter of garlic supplementation, or even just cooking with garlic, with a lot of garlic. They need to discuss that with their doctors, or if they have a personal nutritionist, they need to discuss these things, because it might interfere with the medicine. It might make your blood a little too thin, and then in that case, it makes you more likely to bleed. So you have to consider these things. It's a similar thing with turmeric. So turmeric is a very good anti-inflammatory food as well, and it helps to boost the immune system too. Turmeric as well can have that effect if it is that you are on a blood thinner. So if you're not on blood thinners, you're fine where the garlic and the turmeric is concerned. Again, I say, I don't know if you have any other condition or issue that might preclude you from using too much garlic or turmeric. So always bear these things in mind, right? So we talk about the garlic, we talk about the turmeric. Let's look now at vitamin C. Again, vitamin C is one of those nutrients that's very, very good for the immune system. It helps your body to really adapt to stress. Stress meaning stresses in your body, which a lot of times inflammation is one of the markers of stress in the body. So you want to take in a lot of vitamin C. One of, well, the best known source of vitamin C is actually West Indian or acerola cherry. Now, I'm not sure of what it looks like in other parts of Jamaica, but I know for certain in Portmore, there are a lot of West Indian cherry trees growing in people's backyards. Almost everybody. If you don't have a West Indian cherry tree, your neighbor has one. And the good thing about it is that West Indian cherries are now in season. So if it is that you just pick 3 West Indian cherries and eat that, just 3, you're good to go in terms of vitamin C for the whole day. Just 3, right? You'd have to eat a lot more oranges to get the amount of vitamin C that's in just even one of those West Indian cherries, because again, I say West Indian cherry is the best, by far, the best known source of vitamin C. If you want to compare it, just go to the supermarket when you can again and look at the cherry juice and maybe orange juice. Look at the nutrition label, look at the serving size, make sure it's the same serving size, and just look at the vitamin C content, and you'll see there's a marked difference, right? So we look at fruits like our West Indian cherries. If you don't have West Indian cherries, there are always the good old-fashioned oranges, because oranges are synonymous with vitamin C. So there is the orange. And also mangoes are in season. So mango is another good source of it. Again, I'll hasten to say, for persons who might be diabetic, watch it with the mangoes, because mangoes are chock full of good nutrients for you. However, mangoes are also very sweet, and people tend to go for the very big mangoes, and if they're going for the small mangoes, they'll eat maybe a dozen at a time. So if it is that you're going to go for the mangoes, perhaps you could have a jar and share another jar with somebody else, and maybe eat the seeds as well. But if you're going to eat a large mango, please, I would suggest that you don't eat a large mango all at once, just because of the sugar content, right? So you can split it up throughout the day. And as I said again, people, please, especially for the diabetics, it's not a good idea to sit down over an entire bowl of mangoes and consume that at once, right? Good. So we want to be moderate in all that we do. Good. So that's what we're looking at now for the vitamin C. Also, you will get vitamin C from some vegetables, particularly tomatoes. You get a lot of vitamin C from tomatoes as well. So it's a good thing to consume these vegetables and these fruits to just ensure that we are getting enough of these anti-inflammatory properties from them, right? So in general now, we want to also ensure that we are eating a good spread of foods. Now, again, one of the challenges, going back to the whole matter of food security, so some people might not eat cherry, and some people might not eat mango, although it's so hard for some of us to believe, the mango lovers. But it might be a situation wherein you are not able to access fresh fruits and vegetables. So if it's a situation where you're not able to access these because of the fact that depending on where you are right now, especially for some persons in St. Catherine under the lockdown, it might be difficult for you to access fruits, fresh fruits and vegetables. So what you can do at this particular point in time is to purchase fruit juice and vegetable juice. So it's better to go with the 100% fruit juice. If that's available at the supermarket, then you can get that. And you can get a 100% vegetable juice as well. But again, I'll hasten to say this, that generally people tend to, if it is that you're going to eat a fruit, you will eat less, you consume less sugar than if you drink juice, because it's easier to drink than it is to eat. So you might end up drinking, say, 2 to 3 cups of juice, depending on how tall your glass is. And if you were to consume the whole fruit, you would have consumed much less than if you drank the juice. Like, all right, let's take, for example, an orange. A large orange will give you about, say, 4 to 6 ounces of juice. Most persons don't have such a small glass or such a small cup that they're going to drink juice from. So if it is that they drink the juice, they end up drinking more than what they would have gotten from the orange. Understood? You're getting that, Tamika? Because if you get it, I hope everybody else gets it. Right? You understand that concept? Okay. I'm not hearing you now, Tamika.
Yes.
You understand the concept?
Yes.
Okay, good. Good, good. All right. Good. So if it is that you're not able to get what you would normally eat, so say, for example, now again, for the pescatarians, you might be used to fresh fish. You might be used to going to the fish market and getting your fresh fish, and then you go home and you prepare it. At this point in time, you might need to consume frozen fish from the supermarket if it is that you cannot get your fresh fish. So these are things that we look at if it is that you are not able to get that fresh fruit and veg, if you're not able to get the fresh fish, if you're not able to get the fresh meat. Some persons might be eating a lot of canned foods at this time, again, because of the fact that they might not be able to get fresh meat. When I went to the supermarkets on the first weekend of lockdown in St. Catherine, there was nothing fresh. So we had to buy just canned foods and fruit juice because there was nothing at all fresh. So if it is that we're using canned foods, some things to bear in mind for persons who might have high blood pressure, you will have to be very conscious of the salt content of some of the canned meats, particularly things like corned beef tends to be salty. So you can look, there is one particular brand, I don't know if I'm allowed to call brand names, but there is one particular brand in Jamaica I know that actually has a lower salt content than than some of the other brands. So you will find that there is a particular brand that has, I think it says reduced salt on the front of the label. But also, even if it is that you don't get that, just compare. Look at the serving size again, ensure that the serving size that you're comparing is the same, which usually serving sizes are uniform across certain types of foods. So just ensure the serving size is the same and look at the salt content, which will usually be denoted by sodium. That's sodium. So you look for sodium and you look at the sodium content to see what it is like. Choose the one that has the lower sodium content. All right? So, and that goes for any kind of canned meat at all. Whether it's tuna, whether it is some other kind of canned fish, anything else at all that it is that you're going to eat, look for the sodium content. And again, one of the benefits of the pescatarian lifestyle is because generally the canned fish tends to be lower in sodium content than, for example, canned meat. So it's one of the other benefits. And also you might also look at getting some peas and beans. Now again, with the overall vegetarian lifestyle, fresh peas and beans, they're usually dried. So you find that even if it is that you're not getting anything else fresh in the supermarket, you will get dried peas and beans that you soak overnight and then you cook, or you might pressure cook as needed, as opposed to getting fresh meat now, which, as I had said before, can be a challenge depending on the specific situation right now. So you see, those are points for the vegetarian and pescatarian lifestyle. All right, so those are some of the main points that I really wanted to cover. So just to recap, remember now, so we're looking at foods that are high in anti-inflammatory properties. So we're looking at our fresh fruits and vegetables. We're looking at foods high in zinc, such as our grains, our rice, our flour, whole grain flour if we can, oats, things like that. We also want to ensure that we are getting enough vitamin C, which we get from the fruits, particularly the West Indian cherry. If it is that you're not able to get your fresh fruits and veg, you can drink your fruit juice, you can drink your vegetable juice. Again, bear in mind not to drink too much, because again, we do not want a situation where we are consuming too much sugar, right? Particularly for persons with diabetes, ensure that you watch the mango eating. Ensure that you watch especially the mango eating, because mangoes tend to be very high in sugar, and then persons tend to consume a lot of mangoes at once. So please share with your neighbors, share with those in the household with you. All right, so I think I've recapped all of what it is that I wanted to mention before. As I had said before as well, foods such as turmeric and garlic, which might be clashing with blood thinning medications. Please check with your doctor before, and if in doubt, just don't consume those at all. So there are other foods aside from turmeric and garlic rather, that you can get anti-inflammatory properties from, namely your fruits and your vegetables, right? So don't feel like because you can't consume garlic or turmeric that you are at a disadvantage, really. There are other fruits and vegetables as well that you can consume safely. And I wanted to also mention to persons who might have kidney failure or any kind of renal insufficiency, it's imperative that you continue with your medicines. If it is that you have kidney failure because of any other underlying conditions, ensure that you take your medicines to continue to treat that underlying condition, and also stick to your diet and ensure that you follow all of what you need to be following, especially at a time like this, because for certain illnesses, you know that persons who already have underlying issues, that they are more likely to be at higher risk for unfavorable outcomes. So persons, please, we have to ensure that we take good care of ourselves, stay on top of our medicines, get enough rest, get some exercise, get some sunlight as well, because most of us are staying inside, so we're probably not getting as much sunlight as we used to. But vitamin D, which our bodies make when we are exposed to sunlight, actually has been shown to help our immune systems as well. So get some sunlight as well, folks. All right, so that's really just a recap of what I had to say. Tamika, do we have any questions?
Yes, Yanique, thanks for that. For persons with respiratory illnesses, right? What would you recommend for them in terms of dieting?
All right, so persons.
Also, just another, you know, persons who have sinusitis, you know, when you go, no, it's very, you have to be mindful how you cough and sneeze, and these things really are symptoms of your, you know, your sinus acting up. And so how do you really try to, you know, try to curtail your sinus acting up, prevent your sinuses from acting up at a time like this? What are some of the things that you can do, you know? Because people will look at you like as if you just killed someone because you are cough.
All right, definitely. I think all of us understand what you're talking about there. All right, so in terms of perhaps if you have sinusitis, maybe if you have allergies, or if you have any kind of respiratory ailments, you might be asthmatic, or you might have bronchitis or something else like that. One of the things you need to look at is, well, first and foremost, you need to take your medicine. So if it is that there's any medicine that you get that really helps you to control allergic symptoms or any kind of rhinitis or sinusitis, then you need to take your medicines. All right, so the other thing is that we have to consider some foods that might also trigger allergic reactions. So dairy is one of the usually common culprits. A lot of people are actually allergic to dairy, and they perhaps don't even know that they are allergic to dairy. But this is where observation is very important, because you have to observe yourself. Is it that I start sneezing and coughing more after I eat certain foods? Do you eat cereal and milk for breakfast in the morning? Is it that after you eat cereal and milk, you realize that you start to sneeze and cough a lot more? Is it that after you've eaten cheese, you find that you start to sneeze and cough a lot more? So these are things that you have to bear in mind. Also, there are certain, there's a type of preservative. There are types of preservative called sulfites that might be contained in certain food preparations. So, say for example, if you're somebody who likes to drink a glass of wine, whether it be alcoholic or non-alcoholic, many times wines do contain sulfites as well, and sulfites can be particularly problematic for asthmatics. So you need to watch yourself with that. Is it that after you drank a glass of wine that you feel short of breath, that maybe you start to cough? These are things that you need to bear in mind. Also, as I said before, dairy is one of those foods that generally causes a challenge, because it's one of those foods that tends to stimulate the production of mucus, and it also causes an inflammatory response many times. So you have to be mindful. You have to really observe yourself with certain foods and read your food labels, because if it is that you realize that you're allergic to wines, or you have some sort of unfavorable reaction to wines, then you have to look at maybe which wine might not contain the sulfites. And then you will also have to look at other foods, because other foods, say for example, coconut milk, like if you buy processed coconut milk or if you buy coconut milk powder, sulfites might be there as well. If it is that you buy lime juice, you might find sulfites there as well. And sulfites might also be in some cured or canned fish. So you must look at those things. You might see it on the label as sodium metabisulfite or potassium metabisulfite. But as long as you see the word sulfite, then you know that it's a sulfite. So those are some of the things that we need to be careful of. So take your medicines and also be mindful of foods that might trigger some sort of allergic reaction with you.
Yes, thank you for that. I have a question here from Jay, and it says, she's asking, how can one practice being a pescatarian on a budget?
All right. So
it can be expensive.
Yes, it can be expensive, particularly if it is that you consume a lot of fresh fish. It can be expensive because if you compare, say, fish to chicken, generally fish tends to be more expensive than chicken per se. So if it is then that you might find that it's being so much more expensive, perhaps you could look at maybe not having fish as your main source of protein. You could have fish as well as your peas and your beans. Now, if you're to have a diet of mainly peas and beans, it's going to be much less expensive than even if you had a diet of chicken and beef and those other meats. So what you could do is mix the fish along with your peas and beans and that should make it less expensive. And also you will enjoy other benefits because of the fact that fish and peas and beans don't generally take as much preparation time, or even the preparation time, it's not as hands-on as if you're going to cook meats and poultry. So those are some of the benefits to be enjoyed. So I would suggest that you mix the fish with your peas and beans to economize.
I agree with that because that's exactly what I do. Yes, I consume a lot of peas and beans, and there are lots of exciting meal ideas that you can, develop with those. And of course, that's why we are encouraging persons to subscribe to our YouTube channel because I'll be posting different meals there, developing different meal ideas and posting them on our YouTube channel, so you can definitely follow us or subscribe to learn more. Because certainly I don't have a lot of money, but I've maintained this diet for almost 10 years. And yes, I do eat a lot of fish or seafood in general because I wouldn't say that I'm a fish lover per se, even though I'm a pescatarian. But I like other types of seafood, and I do like my vegetables and my beans because I think they're versatile. I can make lentil balls, I can make lentil pate, chickpeas, curry chickpeas. There are a lot of things that I can make, and those beans and peas, they're not very expensive, and you still get your nutrients from them. So I do agree with you, Yanique. Yes. And viewers, remember, if you want to ask any question, just indicate, or you may type in the chat section. We don't have much time left. I do have a question here, Yanique. Elizabeth is asking, what are some of the herbal food you can incorporate in your diet?
All right, so she just asked about herbal foods. So I'm figuring she's just asking about herbs in general that you can incorporate into your diet. So we look at some of the herbs, things like garlic. Again, we spoke about turmeric. These are things that you can easily incorporate. Other things that probably are not so common in Jamaica, you can look at things like basil, you can look at things like rosemary. Thyme is something that we usually use a lot of in Jamaica, so you can look at your thyme as well. So these are some of the herbs that you can really look at, because in Jamaica in particular, we don't necessarily incorporate traditionally a diverse array of herbs, but there are some that we use a lot, and so of course things like your scallion and your onion, all of these things that you will really use, which really technically onion, scallion, turmeric, these things are not really herbs as such, but your herbs tend to be more like your thyme, your basil, rosemary, oregano. Pardon?
No, I said oregano. I love to use
oregano.
oregano.
Yes. Yes, the oregano, your tarragon. And as I said before, these are things we generally don't really incorporate a lot of these types of herbs into our diet. But in terms of looking at things like your onions, your garlic, your scallion, that's what we use more in traditional Jamaican cuisine. And that is, of course, what is more readily available in Jamaica, because, of course, whatever it is that you consume mostly in our country, that is what is going to be more widely available, and that is what is going to be more affordable. So if you want to look at the herbs, you look at, as you said, the oregano, the tarragon, you look at things like chives, all of these things. And of course, the internet is replete with information on all of these things. So you can always go online, and of course, you subscribe to Tamika's channel as well to get some ideas on how to incorporate these better into the diet.
Okay, we have a raised hand here. Carol wants to ask a question. You may go ahead.
Well, good afternoon. I have a 9-year-old child here, and she loves pepper. I want to know if it is good for her.
So,
all right, so you said
who loves to eat pepper, what would you say about that, Yanique? Is that good for her? I've never heard of it. who loves pepper.
Yes, indeed. Because when I was a child, I was really running from pepper.
Yes.
If it is really that it's not having any kind of negative effect on the child, then generally it's not something that should really be a challenge. However, pepper is something that it can affect your stomach with continued use over time. So I don't know exactly how much pepper this child is consuming, and especially, is it that the child is eating the pepper raw? Can you say, is the child just eats the pepper raw, or is it that they like a lot of cooked, like when they're cooking the meals, when you're cooking meals for her, is it that she likes a lot of pepper?
Anyway, it's like pepper. You have to
Anyway,
kind of blend it and make it in a sauce. If I leave it in the fridge, you take it out and she will eat it that way, or she eat it the sauce, the pepper sauce in the meat, anything, anyway. She loves pepper.
I see. All right. So again, I'll say that, yeah, it would be good, because everything you must do in moderation. So it would be good for you to not necessarily stop her completely from having pepper, but definitely watch it and don't allow her to overindulge in it, because then, as I said, continued use can cause problems with the stomach later down. It could also cause problems with the mouth, because pepper, it's going to cause problems with the mucus linings of your mouth. It can also, so when some of us eat pepper, our noses run, we get more saliva in our mouths because of the effect that pepper has. So you have to ensure then that while she enjoys it, she must not consume too much of it, because then that can lead to problems down the line. All right, so I wouldn't say stop her completely. However, just ensure that she doesn't overindulge. Just as how you wouldn't let her overindulge in ice cream, don't let her overindulge in the pepper. And then of course you can eat more ice cream than pepper. So overindulging in pepper is going to be a lesser amount than overindulging in ice cream. You understand what I'm saying, Carol?
I understand. And it's the same way with the garlic. So she eats the garlic like you're eating peanuts. She just shell it and eat it like that.
well, this is certainly not a normal child.
I see. So she likes pepper and she likes garlic, and you say she
Garlic.
eats garlic like she eating peanuts.
Peanut.
Is it that she starts the smell of the garlic, Carol? Do you actually smell the garlic on her? Carol?
Do you smell the
Yes,
garlic on her?
the garlic.
Yes. Do you smell it on her? Is she eating that much that you smell it?
Yes, it's especially on the ham. It's so bad.
Oh, so it affects her odor.
Yeah, because she really is consuming quite a bit, and that is why it's actually coming out in her body odor now. So again, you might need to cut her down with the garlic, because if it is that she says she eating garlic like how you would eat peanuts, then that simply means that she's taking cloves of garlic and just eating it raw, which again,
Right.
garlic, yes, garlic can be very harsh on the
Yes.
mouth and on the throat and on the stomach as well. So again, you have to really cut her down on that. I don't think it's a good idea for her to really just sit down and eat cloves of garlic like she's eating a handful of peanuts. If she's going to eat garlic like that, I would suggest that you cut her down to 1 clove per day. That's one of the little specks per day, because that's really a lot for her to be having, especially to be having it raw, right?
Yeah.
So you definitely need to cut her down with that. It is good for her to have these foods, but for her to have it just like that on its own, it's not such a good thing. And it seems to me that she has these cravings I'm not sure if it is that she might be lacking in a particular nutrient why she has these cravings. How long has she been like this, Carol?
She was about 3.
Oh, okay, and she's now 9 and still like this.
Well,
Well, yes.
the think about it, she eat that same way too.
Oh, the aloe vera.
Oh, I see. I see. Well, the Cinco Bible, the aloe vera, shouldn't be too much of a challenge in terms of like the pepper and the garlic, because especially where pepper is concerned, you know, pepper is very hot. And the thing with Cinco Bible is that it tends to be very bitter. So if it is it that she scrapes off the gel and eats it?
Oh, she just bite it and eat it same way.
Or she just bites? Wow, intriguing.
Interesting.
Very intriguing. Does she eat that every day?
Well, but she can't get it now because it used to be in the yard, but it's not there anymore. Because of eat it, it's not there anymore. And I have to put a lock on the fridge that she can go in to get the pepper and the garlic. But she eats everything. Every vegetable she eats. Fruit, yes, she's like that. Everything like that she eats.
Okay, well that's good. That's good. That's good. But what I would suggest you do as well, Carol, is talk with our doctor about it. Since it is that you have this specific concern, talk with your doctor about it. Have them examine her mouth and her throat just to ensure that there's not any kind of any injury there, especially from the garlic and the pepper. So talk with them about it just to ensure that she's okay. And just have a chat with them, because then they can do more physical examination now. And of course, they would be more knowledgeable of her medical history. So have a talk with her doctor about it, and then you see what kind of plan of action you can come up with.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for those questions. And definitely, I would say that, I mean, you should do everything in moderation. So having so much pepper and so much garlic, I don't think that can be good. I mean, everything should be done in moderation, right?
Right.
Before we really wrap up, Yanique, in terms of exercise, what would you recommend to persons in terms, like, even the time period, the time frame, like, should they exercise for about 30 minutes, 20 minutes per day? Because seeing that they're not able to be active, they're not going out to work. Not everyone is going out to work, and they might be sitting around the computer or the watching TV, and you're not being active. Yes, you might be trying to eat right, but of course you have to combine eating right with exercise, right?
Right. So the thing is, the general recommendations is that you would exercise for about 20 to 30 minutes per day, at least 5 days a week. And so what is recommended also is that you don't necessarily have to do the entire 20 or 30 minutes at one time. You could probably do 3 10-minute sessions and you get your 30 minutes in general. So the thing is to really be physically active. We don't want to just be sitting down all day, just be in that type of position. We want to get some physical activity so that we can get our heart to do some work, because our hearts need to be exercised, and that is how our hearts really get exercised. And not only that, but physical activity, it helps us to release chemicals in our bodies that will help us to feel better about ourselves. And again, in a time of crisis, depression or feeling sad is one of those things that is a challenge, and it can very much happen during a crisis. So definitely exercise is going to be very important to help fight against any feelings of depression or anxiety. And again, it's a challenge at this time because some persons might feel like they're cut off from family. But what you can do is just find a video on YouTube and do some exercises. If it is that you might not have that sort of accessibility, do something simple do some jumping jacks. You might be listening to the radio. Some persons listen to the news a lot, and the news can make you depressed. So while you're listening to the news, do some jumping jacks, because you're paying attention to the news, but you're still doing your jumping jacks. So you're getting that level of exercise. And doing the jumping jacks during that time might help to offset those negative feelings that you might get from listening to the news, right? And then you might find that you like the jumping jacks so much that you kind of tune out the news a bit, right? So we must have that balance there. Again, going back to the whole matter of mental health, we must have that balance, because yes, we want to inform ourselves, because we need to be informed so we can know when is it that we can go out on the road to go to the supermarket, when are we under a curfew. All of these things we need to know, because it affects our daily activities. But at the same time, we need to get our exercise, and we need to limit or monitor the content that we are exposing ourselves to. So again, I'll say you can break up the exercise, just keep your body moving.
Yes, and if you live in an apartment complex, you want to walk around the complex as well. I find that when I go out to walk early in the mornings around my community, I feel so good for the rest of the day. So, I mean, exercise is really, really good. I can attest to that, just by walking briskly around, you know. If you don't want to do anything strenuous, you just, do some walking. And that.
Right. And yes, and you get the sunlight during that time as well, Tamika.
Yes, and someone is telling us also about Nike Training app. So Nike Training app is always giving free membership for their workout programs during this time. So if you want to capitalize on that, you may do so. We also have another comment with regards to the garlic. So garlic cravings could be a sign of anemia or vitamin B or C deficiency. I guess we have from the doc, right?
Precisely. So that is why I had, especially because of the fact that she has been experiencing these cravings for like 6 years now. So that's something that definitely should be discussed with the doctor. The fact that she has been experiencing the cravings for 6 years now and haven't seen any great sign of any type of deficiency is a good sign, I would say. But at the same time, she definitely needs to discuss that with the doctor to see how they can mitigate against that.
Right. So, well, Yanique, thank you so much, for sharing with us today. And as we come to a close, I just want to remind everyone to subscribe to our channel, our YouTube channel, Pescatarian Lifestyle. Of course, we'll have more experts coming on to talk to us or present to us on different topical issues, lifestyle issues in particular. So, subscribe to our channel to keep abreast with whatever we post, or to keep up to date with whatever we post. And I want to thank you all for joining us today, and for being so attentive and for participating. And I see another comment here. Mom should evaluate as well for mental illness. I'm not sure what that means.
Well, Tamika, if I may, based on what I think is the same person who mentioned that these cravings might be a sign of vitamin B deficiency. Mm-hmm. There is vitamin B is a group of vitamins, and deficiency in any one or one particular type of these vitamins can cause some challenges, some mental challenges as well. So mm-hmm. Definitely this is something that she needs to discuss with the doctor. Again, as I said, especially because of the fact that this has been going on for 6 years now, from the child was 3 and now the child is 9. So this is definitely something to be discussed with the doctor to look to see if there are any other more serious things or anything that could become more serious if this continues.
Okay, thank you so much. And I see Jan saying, great job, ladies, very informative. Thank you for that, Jan. And Thank you, Yanique. I agree. That was very informative. And I just want to thank you for taking time out to speak to us today. And thank you guys for joining us. And we'll, be posting more videos like this. So don't forget to subscribe and have a wonderful day. See you.
All right. Thank you to Tamika. You're welcome.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.